Levi, Mark said before you jumped on here that you were on I know you were on a few days ago, and you made it sound like Iowa State's been tearing it up on the recruiting trail. Is that accurate?
I don't know if I said tearing it up. I said he put a
Mark,
positive
to let
spin
us know.
upon recruiting.
In what context?
I don't know. And what I want you to do, Levi, is explain to me how Iowa State is getting absolutely put over a barrel in the 24 class within the state of Iowa. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm not.
Within the state of the Iowa. Well, I mean, within the state of Iowa is a bad thing. I mean,
no, it's not. It's not a bad
Iowa
thing.
has always won the state of Iowa.
No, not to
it's
this.
Not like any different than usual. Like, it's not like, I mean, do you want to talk about how they bent Iowa State over a barrel in 1978? Like, who gives a shit? Like,
this ain't 1978, buddy boy.
It might as well. You guys run the same offense, so who gives a shit? I guess sure. And let me. I'm gonna see what. I mean, we got a couple prospects in the state of Iowa. I mean, you guys got a bunch.
Okay.
For 2024.
How about I just share my screen?
I mean, I'm just looking at I've got 247 pulled up and looking at Iowa State's 2024 targets, and I don't see a committed to Iowa on any of them. So
what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Take a look at this. These are the 247 sports rankings. All right, we'll throw them up here. Okay, let's get rid of this banner. Let's get all right.
Right, linebacker, lineman. That's Iowa's always owned linebackers and linemen in state.
That's okay. I'm just work with me here. Grant Bricks is not coming to Iowa or Iowa State. Okay.
No.
Derek Weiskopf, Iowa. Cam Buffington, Iowa. Cody Fox, Iowa. Brevin Dahl, Iowa. Drew Campbell, Iowa. Preston Reese, Iowa. Reese Vanderzee, Iowa. You got two guys here who are Titus Cram. I don't know what the latest on his. Maybe you think Iowa State's got a shot with him. Not a single top 12 prospect has committed to Iowa State. That doesn't concern you in the least?
I don't know. I guess it depends on what you mean by concern, because
I'm not trying to rip anybody.
Let's just contextualize this, because linebackers, tight ends, and offensive linemen, generally speaking, in the state of Iowa has always gotten the top cut of those. That's just how it's always been. Okay. And Iowa State has still managed to find good linebackers and tight ends and offensive linemen in and out of state, regardless of whether Iowa has gone after them. And so, I don't know.
Okay, well, three of those players that are in the top 12 are skill position players. Brevin Dahl's a running back. You've got
running backs.
Reese Vanderzee's a wide receiver, who Iowa State won. You acted like
I would say. You can get receivers. You can get. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can get players outside of Iowa. Like, those do exist too. Like,
okay,
Iowa State has a footprint in Texas and Florida and stuff like that. We go get players from there too.
Yeah, I was doing pretty good. Yeah, I was doing
Ohio. Iowa State famously has had lots of good Ohio talent recently.
Yeah.
Put it this way. Would I like to have more good in-state prospects? Yes, obviously. Like, Cooper DeJean is exactly one that I know were on early and then backed off late or whatever it was. Like, that is a guy in-state I would have loved to have. Like, but obviously we didn't. Our secondary is fine without him. He'd be better with him. We're fine without him. That's kind of where it is. if I got broken up every time Iowa got a linebacker or an offensive line or a tight end from the state of Iowa, we'd might as well just shut the program down. It is what it is. You'd like to do better within the state of Iowa, but outside of the state of Iowa, they've got a really good start. And, I think they're going to be fine.
I just don't. I bring this up not to just light a fire, but I bring this up because I don't recall. I just don't remember a class, an in-state class, whether that means a lot to you or not. An in-state class being so one-sided. I just don't recall it being this lopsided, and I just find that odd. I know Iowa State's coming off a bad year, but Iowa's not coming off a very pretty year either, and Iowa State did just beat Iowa. So
Iowa never comes off a pretty year. They just win games sometimes. But anyway, no,
by the way, almost every one of those prospects.
You are correct in that 24, as it currently stands, is more lopsided than it has been in previous years. But look at last year. If you look at the top 15 prospects, Iowa's got 1, 2, 3, 4. Iowa State's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So,
yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's what I mean.
Right. So it goes back and forth. That's just is what it is.
Well, I don't know if I would say that. It is what it is. It
I
goes
mean, it
back.
did. Literally, we had more top 15 prospects than Iowa last year. Now you have more. I mean,
You
that
don't
is the
have any.
definition of back and forth.
You don't have any. You don't have any top. You have nobody in the top
Right
12.
now,
You don't have
right
any.
now.
You don't have a single prospect in the top 12. That's not a problem to
I'm
you.
gonna go back to the
Not
point
a
of we
single
get recruits
prospect.
other places besides Iowa. Like I don't think it's that. I mean, if we were in Texas, that would be a different discussion. We're not. We're in Iowa. We have to contextualize and understand that Iowa does produce good linemen and linebackers and tight ends. That's about it, outside of a few exceptions. Obviously, there are exceptions. Alan Lazard, Tim Dwight. Those guys are exceptions. But for the most part, Iowa produces good big dudes.
Okay.
Outside of that, it's pretty hit or miss, and it's just like I said, if it was Ohio, Florida, Georgia, wherever, it'd be a different story. But like you can get plenty, you can field a perfectly good football team without a single player from Iowa. We'd like to get more. We did get last year, but you can it's not that big a deal.
The only reason I bring it up is because it seems like, from my knowledge of in-state recruiting, that these two programs, more than probably many other states across the country, these two in-state programs really rely on in-state recruiting historically. Sure. Even Iowa State, even though they typically don't. I mean, last year you brought that up. They battled Iowa nicely, and you could argue they won the state of Iowa last year. So that's all I'm saying. I'm looking at the current cycle, which we're on 2024, right? That's the heavy cycle we're involved with right now. And I'm just wondering, from an Iowa State fan's perspective, there's got to be a little bit of concern there.
You know,
it's like, oh, this is kind of strange. Like,
I mean, if you're looking though, like at the positions that Iowa is top heavy in, I mean, wide receiver, I would say it's pretty deep at that position. That's not something like you can with this particular class 2024, they're being pretty picky with this one. Like they're only taking a couple receivers, like one or two, just because that position is very deep and very young.
They did offer Vanderzee, by the way.
I'm sure they did. It's an in-state kid. They're going to offer. Iowa State offers everybody. That's the like. I mean, everybody knows that. Like Iowa State gives out tons and tons of offers, like the second most in Division I, which I'm not as big on, but whatever. I know why they do it, but I mean, linebackers. Iowa State's really young there, and they got a bunch of really good in-state talent last year at linebacker. Like it's just. There's some of these positions where Iowa is top heavy in those, and they just don't have to be it's not life or death on whether or not they get Derek Weiskopf. Would we like to have Derek Weiskopf? Of course. He's a 4-star linebacker from in-state. Obviously, we'd like to have him, but we don't. So we move on and we get a different guy. I mean, if anything is, especially if anything has been proven up to this point, is that Iowa and Iowa State can both hang on defense, but pretty much no matter who's back there, whether they're from Iowa or Florida or Texas or Ohio or wherever. Iowa State and Iowa have put up tremendously, outrageously good defenses for most of the last decade, and they do it with in-state and out-of-state players. Iowa State's currently got Iowa State and Iowa both have currently one of the best, the best two secondaries in college football, and they both have one guy from Iowa starting. Like, I mean, it's not that big a deal. I mean, you'd like to win more, but it doesn't mean Iowa State's falling apart as a program just because they didn't get a whole bunch of recruits from Iowa in one particular recruiting class.
You say Iowa has one guy starting in the secondary from Iowa?
Just Cooper DeJean, right? Or am I missing somebody?
Well, I think Xavier Wampa's got a pretty good chance of starting.
Is he starting? I have no idea.
Well,
he didn't last year, did he?
No. Well, he was a freshman last year.
Well,
they lose Kayvon Merriweather.
I feel like it's a fair question since he didn't start last year. But
and Riley Moss.
Well, one or two. You'd have one or two, but again, that's not your whole secondary.
So what's the latest on Titus Cram? Because I don't follow this stuff.
Titus Cram. I mean, I'm not as up on that one. But I've heard consistently is that Iowa State is talking to him and trying to get him. I don't know much beyond that, to be perfectly honest, but I'm not as tapped in as like Nick Osen from 247 or anything like that. But
okay, so
I mean, I think he's like Iowa State would like to have him. They are very young at running back right now.